and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
And today featuring a special guest, Brad Talton of Level 99 Games. Say hi, Brad.
Hi, it's nice to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
Yeah, we appreciate that you're coming back. We were looking at our previous episodes of our board game breakdown from back in the day. Mm-hmm. And you and Joshua Van Lanningham joined us both on one of the previous breakdowns, and you guys were our first live guests.
Oh, wow. Well, it's been fun. And, it was great to see you guys at Gamma and to meet up again. And it's funny because we're basically neighbors, but we only meet at these conventions.
Right.
So
it's amazing. And for those who know, we were invited as hosted media at the Gamma Expo this year in Louisville, Kentucky. And yeah, we spent most of the time hanging out with Brad, who is from Albuquerque, and we're from Las Cruces, a 3-hour drive away from each other. And I drove about 20-something hours to get there to hang out with you.
There you go. Yeah. But we're gonna see each other pretty soon in the near future, right? You're coming down to visit us.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. Probably no later than early summer for sure. I'm awesome. Very excited to go up there, and because of course my game just came out, so I'm gonna promote it up there. But hang out with the guys at Level 99 and anybody else who wants to hang out in Albuquerque, old stomping grounds for a bit.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, we've been enjoying matches quite a bit.
Feel free to inflate my ego and tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Oh no, I really enjoyed it. I think it's such a cool take on the genre of trick-taking games, and it's got there's interesting plays to make in each hand, which right off the bat you start to see strategies emerge, which is something you don't always get with trick-taking games. Often you really slogging through a lot of the chaff to find a couple moments where you get to make plays, and in matches you get to make plays all along the way. So,
yes.
I really love it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's different ways to feel clever.
Gorgeous. Great job to Thing 1, Thing 2. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no, the guys from Thing 12, they're just their production value is just obscenely good. And speaking of card games too, takes on classic card games. I've been playing a lot of Balatro ever since you showed that to me.
Yeah, I bet you have.
I really have.
You and everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
I still haven't tried it yet, but I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so...
Yeah. For the sake of your addiction, don't. Download it, pay them for it. It's totally worth it, but don't play it. It will encompass too much of your time.
It's such a cool game, and it's such a great take on, a classic. We all know how to play poker.
Right.
And we've seen poker played, and now, it's a really radical twist combining two things that we love: roguelikes, progression, and poker together.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's got a good sense of style.
It's so bizarre, and actually, I don't know if I told you about this at the Gamma Expo. Speaking of other published games that are about poker, have you heard about The Gang from Cosmos?
I feel like I've heard it. I've not played the game.
It's cooperative Texas Hold'em with deduction.
Okay.
And I played a prototype of it, and it works really well.
Yeah. I've always been a big fan of playing cards, and there's so many great games that you can just adapt to a standard deck and play with a deck of 52.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's almost like they've been around for hundreds of years or something,
But all the great designers, built from them too. A lot of Reiner Nietzsche designs come from standard playing card variants.
Yep.
And and then they're adapted to kind of be fully realized, fully fleshed out games.
Right. Yeah.
But you can play just about any great game with standard cards.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's the most universal tool. But either way, enough about open source, public domain games. We're here for a main reason, and that, we invited you on because you're running a Kickstarter. We're going to get to the Kickstarter after this, but we wanted to do some recap of some of the most recent games since the first time we had you on a number of years ago, and we wanted to talk about some of the new stuff.
What year was that?
I think 2001, maybe?
You mean 2021? We haven't been doing this for
2021? No,
I wasn't even started back then.
Yeah, hold on.
2021. So I guess they have 3 years now.
Yeah, it's been a number of years because we had you guys on to promote Bullet, the first Kickstarter for Bullet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been about the time.
Yeah, so We'll talk about a few. We'll skip over most of the expansions, although I do see that there was a lot of expansions recently for like Exceed, Bullet, and amongst a number of different ones. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. We'll start on like the first full game that you guys printed since that episode, and that's Sakura Arms.
Yeah. So, Sakura Arms is a dueling card game from Japan. We localized the game to English, and this is the second English printing of Sakura Arms.
Mm-hmm.
AEG had one a few years prior, and then we have ours. And yeah, it's been it's been a long time for Sakura Arms, hasn't it? It feels like.
There's a number of sets I know of it, like that you guys have published. Now, I have a couple questions about it. So, I had played the original AEG version. Did you guys play the AEG version first, or did you play the Japanese version?
Yeah, we played the AEG version in, deciding if it was something that we wanted to pursue. And actually, I played the AEG version completely independent just because I thought it was a beautiful game and I wanted to try it, and I loved the game.
Yeah.
It's a really excellent game. And then, we realized that AEG was letting it go, and so we talked to Bakafire, the designer, about whether it was possible to do a new English edition. And AEG published, I want to say, 8 of the... Now there's like 24 goddesses. We managed to get 18. So we did 3 boxes with 6 goddesses each. And in this game, you pick 2 of those and you combine them together to build your deck. And so each of those boxes has 6. You have a bunch of different combinations, like 6 choose 3 possible, or 6 choose 5. What 6 choose 2 possible, spreads that you can play. And when you raise that to 18, obviously it gets pretty wild.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
That's like exponential growth. I mean, it's on brand for your company, right?
We like to have a lot of replayability in a game, yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing I think you guys hit the mark on above most anything else.
Yeah, something you really sink your teeth into and explore. That's the goal.
That's awesome. So you got a lot of the ones coming in now. We have, on the screen here, we have the Urena box, which is on there. And we have one of our contributors, Creative Chaos, saying, love that art style. And yeah, that was one thing that, like, when I played it back when AEG had it, that absolutely drew me in, is that art style. It has, traditional anime or manga style. And your production just really pushes it really nicely. Like, it's good quality. I know you guys always focus on making sure it's good, high-quality components. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's more to say.
Oh, I would say that the big innovation, I think, for the Level 99 edition was the Quick Start guide. So one thing is, Sakura Arms is a really heavy game. There's a lot to it, and figuring out how to build your first deck and play your first match is really involved. It takes a lot to parse that out. And so what we asked Bakafire to do was create Quick Start decks for us, where you can pick 2 goddesses, and on their reference cards, we mark a couple cards in red and a couple cards in blue. And if you take the blue cards from one goddess and the red cards from the other, you put them together, you have a fast build deck. So it's easy to jump right into your first game, no matter which 2 characters you want to play. And I think that really opens up accessibility for the game for people that otherwise would have trouble diving into such a heavy game for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I was thrown off by a little bit about how much there was involved. But I think that's a brilliant idea. I mean, faster to the table, faster to play.
Right, yeah. And then you can get onto your second play and actually do your deck construction.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Do you have anything more to say about Sakura Arms?
No, I mean, it's available in our store right now. And if you think you might like it, I'd recommend to check it out, because you probably will. It's a game that really delivers on its promise.
Very cool.
Very cool. So the next game we have out here is one of the first really major IP ones that I've seen you guys do. You might have done others, but this is a big video game one. This is Dead by Daylight, the board game.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I admit it. I did Dead by Daylight, the board game. I'm the designer of that one.
Yep.
And it was a pretty intense experience building that game, I have to say.
Well, from what I understand, the video game's a pretty tense experience too, isn't it?
Yeah. It was. It was a really interesting game to build. Like, building a 1v minigame has some really unique challenges to it. especially on the balance and playability side of the game.
Right.
And this is also our first game that really heavily used miniatures. So we had a lot of it is to figure out how to make minis, how to sculpt minis,
Yeah.
and yeah. Anyway, a lot involved with Dead by Daylight, and I could talk for hours about this game. But I really loved working on it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, Dead by Daylight, like, having not known anything about the IP, we went and visited you guys up there, and at the time we weren't able to discuss Dead by Daylight. It was coming out shortly after that when we visited, but...
yeah, because I think they were just starting to fulfill...
oh, no, we were able to talk about Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
We weren't able to talk about another one that we're going to come up here in a bit. But yeah, you were just starting to fulfill Dead by Daylight, and it seems like the reviews have been pretty positive for it.
Oh yeah. Everybody who's been able to get their hands on it has loved it.
Yeah.
But we had a few issues where the game ran out of stock last year, like almost immediately went out of stock.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of impossible to find anywhere. But we're restocking it in July, so the production is almost finished, and we're going to have it back in, like 2 months after, end of April, and then 2 months over the ocean, and hopefully we'll be shipping that out again in July. So that's
Right.
quite exciting.
As our friend Craig said, it's a good issue to have, and I always like seeing when publishers run out of a stock immediately. It's like, oh wait, hold on now, suddenly we got to order more, right?
If you can order more, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't gotten a chance to play it
Haven't
yet,
got to play it either.
I do want to try it. Granted, I haven't played the
I think
video
you'll
game
enjoy
yet.
it.
Yeah?
You'll enjoy it. Yeah.
Is it nerve-wracking to play? Explain it to me as somebody who's never played Dead by Daylight, the video game even.
So it's a true one versus mini game, right? So one of you is the killer, and then up to 4 other players are the survivors. And the killer's job is to wound the survivors and then pick them up and carry them over to these hooks and sacrifice them on these hooks. And the survivor's job is to not get sacrificed on those hooks, instead repair generators, which will open the exit gates to the labyrinth and let you escape. Right? So that's the core premise of the game. Now, the wrinkle in this is that all of the killers have some kind of special power that's unique to them. And that usually has to do with what kind of monster they are or what kind of weapon they've got. So you've got, like this old bounty hunter who has a hook shot rifle that like he can shoot you with a spear gun and then reel you in. There's like an old Babylonian priestess, and she's like infected with this plague, and you can drop like sickness all over the map, and then everybody who walks through the areas where you've been like gets sick and starts to slow down, and they start like vomiting and making a lot of noise. Makes it easier for you to hunt them down. But it's basically a game of cat and mouse at its very core. It's horror, survival, cat and mouse, and anyway, a lot of fun. I think probably more stressful for the player playing the killer, but that's
a stressful career, let me tell you.
Yeah, because you have to deal with all 4 of the players' machinations, and they will really work together against you.
It's almost like they're trying to work against you.
Yeah, like, who gave you permission to survive? Like, you got work to do here.
That's awesome.
But so a really, really cool game. And I hope that I'll be able to get you guys a copy at some point to try out for yourselves.
Yeah, we'd love to try it out. That would be fun. Maybe we'll have an excuse to go back up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then let's see here. Yeah, Creative Chaos again, avid Twitch streamer. Saw many of her friends play the video game. Can only imagine how it came out as a board game. So great, you'll have to come with us and try it out. All right, the next game we have up here that might have spoiled it a little bit is Cool Animal Facts.
Yeah, so Cool Animal Facts is a game that I guess it didn't just come out, but it feels like it just came out. So last year we were doing distribution exclusively with Asmodee North America.
Mm-hmm.
This gets more into like the business side of things because our exclusivity ended in October of last year, and now and that was kind of right around the time when this game was coming out. This one and probably the next one we'll talk about, Card Catcher. They tend to lump together in that way. But those games were kind of designed as small box games that should go to stores and distribution and kind of be available everywhere. They're like little $15 pick them up and play them, for your family game night kind of games. But we didn't have distribution at that time, and so now I'm trying to get distribution for these games. That's my job right now, is to call distributors and get these games placed. We call it placements when you get onto store shelves. And so I'm trying to find placements for these games, and so it's almost like these games haven't even come out yet.
Right.
The launch has been so quiet, because we at Level 99 we're kind of optimized to launch like big games.
Right.
That's what we're experienced with, and that's what people know us for. Smaller games, we kind of launched through the distribution channels, and because we were in that kind of lapse period there, this game hasn't really received a lot of attention. It hasn't been widely available yet.
Right. And this was designed by Keir Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Which I think I know Keir, don't I?
Yeah, you've met Keir.
Yeah.
He worked with us back when this game was in production and brought it through.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool one. I quite love this game. It's sort of a family, like, bluffing trivia game. I hesitate to call it a trivia game because it's more like Liar's Dice with animals,
right,
than it is like, a game about facts.
Right.
It's fun and witty, and you can win by bluffing, not just by having the most knowledge.
Right, exactly. And I like how you embellish like the inside of it with like various random animal facts, which is a great like little add-on to it. But you're right, I got the chance to play the copy that you provided to us, and I played with my family a number of times, and it really is that level of like I could tell my kids weren't used to bluffing, because they were like, I don't think I know an animal of that. I'm like, well then, obviously I'm going to call you on it, because that's kind of the thing you're not supposed to tell me, right? And so it takes like an interesting like family dynamic to get to that point, where I appreciate that my kids are that honest, but at the same time, I distinctly won.
Yeah, so I do want to try this one. It is on the pile of obligation, as I call it. I just have to get together with my other game group to play it, and this way we get a big group of us playing it. Just haven't been able to go lately.
Yeah, and it is.
But we found a lot of excitement for this game at our local cafe. So at Slice and Dice Pizza in Albuquerque, they got this game because they were one of the few places that could get it. That they got it directly from us, and they've been having a great time with it. And they said that the family audience that comes in to play and eat pizza really gravitates to this game, and I've had a great time with it. A lot of good things to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it looks really good. I do want to give it a try. I was messing around, looking at some of the cards and reading the rules and stuff like that. And I think it's going to go down well in my other game group. It's just we didn't have the April's really busy for all of us.
Right. Yeah, which is why I took the handle and played it a number of times. And it really does boil down to that, like, it's less of do you know that animal, or more like how well can you convince the others that you know an animal that is not only nocturnal, can regrow some limbs, and flies. It's like, wait, hold on. Like,
oh man, I lose this game to my wife every day because she knows so many random animal facts.
Right.
There must be some insect that can do it.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
There must be. And
we totally forgot about like all of anything insects. As soon as we saw flies, it was like, all right, well, what kind of bird can regenerate? It's like, and then like one of us was like, oh yeah, it's like it's like this kind of bug. It's like, wait a minute, hold on, wait, oh yeah, bugs do count as living beings. Who knew that?
They are in the animal kingdom.
They are in the animal kingdom.
I've had people pull out microbes even in game.
What was one of the stranger animals, or more specific ones that you've heard in testing this?
Gosh, I know that like very specific kinds of fish often get, especially like deep sea fish.
Oh yeah.
Tend to answer some of the weirder combinations.
Like the football fish or something, and even that's not even like that strange. Like the blobfish.
Yeah, because once you take away bones, or once you you get gosh, anyway. Yeah. I'm scared to say anything because somebody in the comments will check my animal knowledge. They'll realize that I'm also a fraud.
They'll call you out on your bluff, huh?
Cool animal facts.
Right, exactly. No, so if that's something interesting to any of our viewers, like go check it out, get a chance. So is this available on your store?
It's available in an online store, and if you're listening to this and you're like a teacher or a librarian or like you work at like a community center or a hospital and you just want a copy of this game to like put in your space, we just give them for that. We just donate them.
Wow.
So if you want to, so if you want to have this game available to, in your workplace and you work in a, kind of a public facing or education setting, then like we just provide copies.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I can imagine science museums, like, loving this, like, to do summer programs. They would love to do something like this.
You'd think, right? You'd think. Yeah. Museums are very hard to get placements in.
Oh, that's fair.
There's a lot of red tape to get a museum placement, and that's what I've learned since I published this game. Same for national park placements.
No. Oh, really? National park placements are difficult? Because I've seen a couple of games from.
It's a whole rabbit hole to try and find distributors that can do placements in these places.
Well, just the national parks, because you have to deal with the federal government then too. So
sure,
the bureaucracy alone.
Because I want to say I only bought maybe one game from a national park, and it was from the op. So I mean,
well they work through they have it's very weird because each region has their own buying teams, and sometimes individual parks will count as a separate region from the region they're actually in, and there's anyway it's a whole thing, but it's a project we're working on, and you're always discovering something new about the industry and how it works.
That's awesome, and we'll get back to this later. But we love having Brad. During the Gamma Expo, we spent at length talking to you about just knowing more stuff on the industry. So we're going to get back more into that later. But back to the games that you guys are publishing.
The next one we have here, and you kind of alluded to it, is Card Catcher, where you collect sets of plushies and capsules by dropping a coin.
Yeah, and so this one you have to you have to build this crane with your hands. You have to do this kind of acrobatic maneuver, and I'm doing it over here, but you can't see me because I have no video. And you put your elbow on the table, then you put your other elbow on the hand of that elbow. No, other way.
Okay.
This elbow down, and then you stack your arms.
Like
that. And then you hold the crane up high, and you drop the coin like that. And whatever it lands on, that's the card that you get to pick up and add to your collection. And then from there, it's simple set collection. So you're trying to get plushies that are worth points. They also have this array of capsules around them, and so you kind of want to do a set collection on the different capsules. And so play just continues around until somebody gets 6 cards, which, if you're not very dexterous, that could take a while. But when somebody has enough cards, the game ends, and you tally up points.
So I did get to see this at the Gamma Expo, and I saw some people messing around with it. I thought this was really neat. That coin is really cool.
Yes.
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the coin itself that, just seeing that through the clear cover that you guys put on it, it's just that's special, and I don't know how I can pinpoint why, but I love the way that looked.
Well, yeah, we made it so that it would the box should illustrate to you how it plays. You've got the coin sitting there, and it's kind of in the middle of the claw image, and it's in front of the plushie, and you kind of get the sense that this is a crane machine with the transparent cover that you could drop down the claw and pick up one of these toys and carry it out. That was our goal, is to communicate the big idea in a way that wasn't just saying hey, it's a claw machine card game, go buy it, right? We want to be a little more subtle than that.
Right.
And I think we pulled off pretty well. But again, this is another one where I really want to put it in your Barnes and Noble checkout counter and seeking distribution opportunities. So if you're if any mass market distributors tune into this show, call me.
That would be awesome. I don't believe that they do, but I'm hoping that they always just stay quiet in the background and we just don't notice. So if they are,
you never know.
We're big in New Jersey.
Some of the wildest places.
That's true. Yeah, we looked at our stats. We're huge in New Jersey for some reason.
And go ahead.
Oh, so I'll tell you a story. One of my big distribution accounts that I met actually was during Dead by Daylight, and somebody reached out to us for like a replacement part, like part of their box had been broken in transit, and so we sent out replacement parts, and and then we got a contact back, and it was this woman, and she said, "Hey, I saw the production on Dead by Daylight, and you replaced my son's copy that was damaged. Is this distributed anywhere?" And we're like, "Actually, no." And she's like, "Well, let me get you set up with an account, because I'm with Grosvenor Distribution, and they're one of the big distributors in Canada." And so we got that all set up, but it was just through like random happenstance of having our game out there and doing normal proper maintenance for fans.
Which is huge to say, because I mean, like, you guys have been around for how many years has Level 99 been in business now?
We started in 2012.
2012. Awesome. So that's
established 2011. Like first product shipped in 2012. Yeah.
So cool. 22 years.
So 12 years.
12 years. Sorry. Yeah. My brain's not
We're
working
back in
right
2001 right now.
Yeah, we started in 2001. Like Danny thinks.
No, and so I mean, you guys have seen a lot of the sides of the industry now. You're established, and it's cool to see how like. I always am curious about it, because I know there's a number of publishers that just say, "Oh, we'll take it back to the store. Like, there's nothing we can do," and they just like refuse to send parts or anything. But you guys still actively, help the community out by doing that. And I have that's one thing I've always admired about Level 99 is that it's like, oh, if something went wrong with the product, you're gonna make it right.
I appreciate it. We try.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough. Like, there's a lot of things that go wrong, and these are, I think, what a lot of people don't understand. There's a couple points I'd say people don't understand. Can I get into this? Like,
go ahead.
Go into this? Okay.
Absolutely.
Because there's so I like, if I look at my books for the year and like what I've spent the most money on, like, it's not staff, it's not manufacturing, it's not like operations, it's shipping. Shipping is the single largest expense, and it's not like close to anything else. It's like double my next highest expense is freight and shipping. It's massive how much shipping costs right now. And even after COVID, and at COVID it was really ridiculous, but it's gone down to like to more normal levels. It's still the biggest expense. So like when you have a break, right, and you ask me to like ship you a new part, right? What actually happens in my warehouse, right? Lark, our service team member, goes over the shelf, unshrinks a game, pulls out the part you need, throws the rest of the game in the trash can, puts that part in an envelope, seals the envelope, and sends it out to you for $5 or $6 or whatever it costs in the mail these days, right? Depending on the size of your part. And out of that process, the most expensive part of that process was buying that stamp. like it literally cost more to buy that stamp than it did to open the box and throw it away. Like, manufacturing is pretty reasonable, but shipping is not very reasonable. And I hate to to be saying this, but like I would advise people, if you are a board gamer, right? We live in a real world with like real physical goods that are made by real human hands, or real machines, and nothing in the physical world is perfect. Everything is, it accumulates some deleterious effects as we go, right? Like, colors drift on the print sheet, cuts are not quite right. And especially when we're doing low-run products, because most board games are printed in quantities below 10,000. Most are printed in quantities like 1 or 2,000. And when you're working with such low quantities, like, errors are more likely because you're not doing like giant mass production. It's not as systematized. If we're only going to pack 2,000 of these, we're just going to set up a production line. We're going to do some of this by hand because it's not worth setting up like, high-level like automated machinery to just do 2,000 copies. So the shorter your run is, basically the more indie your studio is, the more likely you are to have product defects. And also, the more expensive it is for that studio to correct any defects they get. So this is, and I'm going into a lot of things here. Maybe I'll soapbox a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, don't
This is what you bring
apologize.
me on
This
for,
is
right?
great. This is 100% what we're waiting for.
So, what I would advise people is, try it and accept the board game, even though it looks like, like it's this perfect expert product. It really is a short run specialty, limited collectible. Like
Right.
if we made 2,000 copies of a baseball card, that would be a limited collectible.
Yeah.
2,000 copies of like a picture, like that's like a limited print run.
Yeah.
Just about every board game on your shelf is a limited print run.
Yeah.
And it's it's not. Don't demand perfection from that. Accept it for what it is.
Right.
And with all of its little scuffs and dents, that's the character that it emerged from the factory with. And I mean, like I said, some people, sometimes something's defective and you got to get it replaced. Like a piece is missing, you can't play the game without it. Right? I understand. I want to make sure that we get that for everybody.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of claims that are like, hey, there's a little nick on the side of my box. Can I get a new box? And I'm like, well, I could refund you this box and sell the other box that I'm gonna have to give to you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, basically, if there's a defective product, I lose like twice what you paid for it when I fix that problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, I'm rambling. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I was going to say, because like with someone like me, the only time I've ever asked for like a replacement part is one of the games I got through a Kickstarter. I was missing a whole stack of a certain color. And that's all I asked them was like, I'm missing the blue meeples from this game. I have 2 purples. Do you want me to send one of these back? And they just sent me the blue meeples. Other than that, I have no problem if there's little nicks or flaws or here and that.
Yeah. And I'm of the same mind.
You have to get a working product, right? Like I mean, that's required, right? And I think anybody would think anything would have a problem with that. And honestly, like if you plan for it well and if you could figure out which parts are going to require replacements, you can source extras so that you don't have to create a lot of waste. But sourcing typically takes like 2 to 3 months. So you have to figure out what parts are going to get messed up at the time when you're printing the game, which is often quite difficult to do.
Right. That makes sense. No, I'm of the same mind too. Like I've always thought, it reminds me of like, there was this story of like at a Comic-Con a number of years ago, like there was all these collectors like going up to a famous artist and they're bringing up all their pristine copies of their comic, and like it never been opened. It's like, we want it for the autograph. And then there was like a kid who was like 10 years old, brought his like beaten up, destroyed copy of like a not even rare version of the game, or of the comic, and the artist just like holds it up, and this is the comic shop owner that was telling me about it. He said he holds it up and he said, "This is what comics are supposed to look like, by the way, guys. Like this is what it is," and ended up giving like the kid a bunch of cool stuff because it's like you loved that thing, right? This is the thing that you made, and having a dent in a box doesn't reduce functionality of the game, in my opinion.
I think
so. I'm always fine getting damaged copies if that's I mean, especially if it gives a discount. You know what I mean?
Well, and I want to be clear. I'm not apologizing for damaged copies, right? I mean, like things ought to be as perfect as we can make them.
Yes.
But to give you some example, and so like where we come from all that. So Asmodee's policy is that refunds are processed by the store.
Yeah.
And then the store goes back to Asmodee and gets a comp. And so that's why when you see a company say, hey, we don't support refunds or we don't support replacements, talk to your store, it's probably because they're distributed through Asmodee, and that is Asmodee's replacement policy,
Makes sense.
that all replacements go back up the distribution chain. So Asmodee can keep track, and they then actually bill the the publishers for like the number of copies that were defective.
Right.
So they'll take it back to the publisher, and in an ideal world, the publisher can take it back from the factory, but that's like a lot harder to figure out.
Yeah.
So what you're actually just seeing is like scaled policies of Asmodee in the marketplace.
Right.
All right, before we move on to the next game we're going to talk about here, I do want to make mention that Ithri was talking about getting the coin to stay in the box took too much effort for card catchers.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Like we had like adhesive on it, and like so there's like in the box there's like a little paper chip behind it and then a piece of tape there.
Okay.
And originally, like, we wanted to make the plastic so that it would snap into place. You know, that little plastic caddy would just hold the piece. But we found that it fell apart too often. Like, if you like drop the carton, like every one of the coins would drop down. So we had to make sure that the coin would stay in place. So, then, you know, if we put tape directly on the coin, it would make the coin gummy. Like, the adhesive would rub off in the heat. And so ultimately what we had to do was like put a little piece of paper and then tape behind it. Lot of like trial and error to figure out the exact way to do it, but sometimes this is little things. Right. Yeah.
That sounds like an interesting like I mean at one point you designed the game, right? Like you get past the game design, all of the graphic design, all of the manufacturing, and then you spend probably more time on that than anything else. It's like, how do we get the coin to stay? Like, let's figure this out.
Little things, and like product design is a big part of game design. Like you come out with a game, and the game is good, but how do you present it to people? How do you turn, you know, this activity into a physical treasure that is going to be meaningful for people, right? And that's I think really the art of publishing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I 100% agree, and I can't wait to buy a copy of Coin Catcher because I mean I'm just a sucker for silly games like that.
Silly dexterity games at that.
I like dexterity a lot. I didn't get a chance to play it. I purposefully avoided it at the con. No offense, because I knew I was like I'm gonna have to like either steal a copy or give you way more money than you would sell it for.
Well, just come back to Albuquerque sometime. I'll hand you one. I got plenty.
No, I'll buy one from you. I promise you. I promise you, because I want one. All right. The next game we have.
No, it's you.
Oh, is it me? All right. The next game we have is Guilty Gear Strive, the board game.
Yeah. So this game actually released like the week after we got back from Gamma. So I was showing you the box at Gamma. We got home and then we immediately did the worldwide fulfillment for this game. And I guess worldwide might be a bit much. We're still doing UK and Europe right now. Most of the other zones are in progress. US mostly finished. Canada and Australia and Asia are all kind of en route. And then, anyway, fulfillment status for Kickstarter projects. It's quite complicated. There's no real fire and forget solutions for worldwide logistics. Yeah. And this is another thing I could go on at length about and tell you about how we process, how we, you know, because again, like I said, fulfillment is my biggest cost, right? No. So this is something where I have to invest a lot of energy to even achieve that. Like it could be much more expensive than it already is. But we put in a lot of energy and effort to make sure that we get worldwide fulfillment done in an effective manner.
We were lucky enough to actually get a sneak peek of this one because we saw the production copy last time we were up there, and we were like teasing it hard, be like, "Oh, you guys are going to be very interested in what's coming up next from Level 99."
Yeah,
right. I forgot to talk about the game.
No, that's fine. It's beautiful. That's all that matters, right?
It's a lovely game. I really love how this one turned out, and what we did in this one, so we've had the Exceed fighting engine for a long time. It's like it's on its 7th season now. Guilty Gear is season 7 of Exceed, and so that means for 7 years now, a little longer, we've been working on this engine, this game, and they're all cross compatible. We used to do a lot of small boxes that had like 4 characters in each box, but we said, you know, people that love the game, they buy the whole box, so we're just going to do a big collector's box and just put it all in one thing. And so that's what we did. We made this giant box, and you guys probably can't see it like from scale, but you remember it from Gamma. This box is like 1.5 feet square, and 6 inches deep. It's bigger
huge.
Than, you know, like pretty much anything else out there, and you can store like 3 seasons of Exceed in this if you want to.
Yeah.
It's got enough room to hold everything.
Yeah. So viewers at home, I mean, if you're listening to our podcast, you probably know board games, but most like the industry standard is what or that they refer to as like the Ticket to Ride size box, which I think is 12 by 12 by 3 inches.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then so just to compare, that's only a foot square. This is like a foot and a half square, and not just in one direction. It's in all. And it's twice as deep.
Yeah, it's some like ratio of the Ticket to Ride box, some aberrant ratio.
Yeah.
But it's a cool box, and it's a big collector's item, and I think that if we reprint, we might go to like smaller boxes again, because the reprint is typically like a retail thing.
Yeah.
And retail is that box. It's super cool, but it is $130.
Yeah.
And retailers typically don't like to commit that hard to a single piece of inventory.
Yeah.
Sure.
But anyway, I should tell you about the game.
Well, before you tell us about the game, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
There's one thing that
ahead.
I want to bring up, because right after you told us about this, this was right after I saw like feedback from, and I'm gonna name another not podcast, but another board game review channel, and because you said something that really just like absolutely made me laugh, and then I heard another reviewer complain about this very concept, and because I was questioning like, man, this is a really big box, and the Dice Tower, one of their only real knock against some of these games is like, stop making games in this size box. Like, these are obnoxious. Like, it can't fit on the shelf, right? And you told us, I was like, so why did you make it that big of a size box, that knowing that it won't fit on a Calyx shelf, which is kind of like
the standard.
The standard, right? And you said...
I said it fits where it belongs, on the top.
It's just where it belongs. And you were like, it's supposed to be there, looming over you, knowing that it wants to be played, staring you down.
Yes, this is a box you cannot put quietly in the back of your shelf and ignore. It demands visibility. It demands to be played. And it looks at you. It looks down at you, and it says, "Why haven't you played me yet? You cannot leave this box on your shelf of shame for too long. This takes up too much space. Your shelf of shame will get overgrown too quickly."
That's right.
So it is a menace by design.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm okay with that. People said the same thing about Dead by Daylight, and
Sure.
I was like, whatever.
All right, so
this is my art.
let's describe the game for the viewers at home
Yes,
now.
thank you
Yeah, sure. So yes, what's this game? So it's a head-to-head dueling card game. Guilty Gear Strive is a fighting game, right? Two characters battle each other. Guilty Gear is my favorite fighting game IP. It is like really anime. It's over the top. It's heavy metal. It's loud and visceral and kind of wild. It's very, very offbeat, very avant-garde, and the people who love it for all these reasons. And with which maybe I could say is similar to the box design. But moving on from that, so it's like a true fighting game. Two players select their characters, and then you and your opponent go down onto the board. And through the card play that you do, you're going to move back and forth, strike your opponent and do damage. Parry your opponent's attacks. Try and set up positions. Try and get tempo. So a lot of the core concepts of fighting games are modeled in this engine. And if you can knock your opponent's life down to 0, you get the KO. You win the match. So it's very true to the original source material. It's basically a fighting game for your kitchen table. And this is a kind of a genre that Level 99 has pioneered.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw it with Soccer Arms, and maybe seen it in our older offerings like BattleCon.
Yep.
Like, we do a lot of head-to-head battle card games. It's something that we really love, something that I really love. And so it comes out. But we've had, I think, Exceed is the latest and greatest fighting game engine that we've built. And Guilty Gear is one of the best seasons of that game to come out yet. So it's good. It's very beginner friendly too. I would say it's a great one to start with learning.
Absolutely. And so you said that this uses the Exceed system. So all previous Exceeds, like I know there was a Street Fighter one. I know there was a whole slew. That was the first one that comes to my mind. So these are all cross compatible.
Yeah. So most recently, we worked with Arc System Works, and so we have two other and Arc System Works is also a fighting game specialized publisher. So we have their Blaze Blue game and their Under Night in Birth game. Those are two other fighting game lines that they publish, and those were our previous two seasons. They're all cross compatible. fight everybody against everybody else. And it makes for some really neat matchups because each season has their own kind of mechanics and internal balance mechanisms that they use.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool how they interact with each other. But when you get two characters from different seasons, they're kind of fighting on different planes. And it's really a puzzle to figure out how to play around your opponent's mechanics and how they can play around your mechanics. And you get a very different experience when you play cross-season play.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm sure like a standard like 2-player like Street Fighter style video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you could have the characters really fast and good at button mashing, or you can have the one that's very methodical and knows how to block all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's really about finding the character. So if you haven't played much fighting game or many fighting games in the past, it's really about finding the character that resonates with your personal style.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mix of a lot of things. It's strategic style. It's also visual style. It's also kind of the pacing of the character. There's a lot of different factors that will combine to help you figure out who the right character is for you to play. And once you find that, then you can really dive in. You can start learning the matchups and how your character interacts with the other characters and what their strengths and weaknesses are and how you're going to play around all of that stuff. And so with these games, we put 20 characters in the box, but we really intend for you as the player to play 1 or 2 or 3 of those. The other characters are for your opponents and for your play group. And so this is a box that is designed to really serve for like a group of a whole group of friends. A whole circle can play out of this box and learn the matchups and get good and build a sort of meta among themselves. So that's my vision for the game and how it's played. And I hope that that folks really form those friend groups and have that meta and get together and throw down and battle. And we play the same matchup that we've played 20 times, but we're always looking for a new advantage or discovering a new play. That's the core goal and promise of Exceed. So yeah, anyway, rambling again, but there you go.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And speaking of meta, that brings us to your latest Kickstarter that you're running right now. When did this just start? I think it was just earlier this week?
Last Tuesday. Yeah. So we're coming up on the 1-week anniversary of Millennium Blades again. So this is probably, I'd say, my favorite Kickstarter page that we've ever done. And if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the page, I recommend going and scrolling the page and watching the video.
Yes.
The video is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hadn't yet seen it until he showed it to me right before the video, and I was like, okay, that's pretty fantastic. I love that.
I mean, we've done, I guess it's been like 30 Kickstarters now. We're getting real close to 30. And 12 years. And the question I ask myself at this point in my career is, like, why does anybody care? Like, why would anybody read this, right?
Right.
It's like every Kickstarter, it's a giant box of stuff. And we know that the stuff is going to be, like, effectively, it's going to be valuable in the sense that it's, like, the weight of the game and the size of the game is going to match the apparent market value of the game plus some discount. So, that's just a given. Why do I have to read all this stuff? I just back for the tier and move along.
Right.
And so I wanted to build a Kickstarter that people would actually read and have fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun. I wanted to make everyone laugh and and convince them to like scroll down to the next thing and see what silly thing was coming next.
I'm actually doing that right now for our live audience.
So our live audience and our YouTube audience who will be watching this, like, I mean, we're right now on step 3, showing like the you win card and the one covered in a bunch of math with a sword. Big old giant thumbs up. I mean, like, this is genuinely just like, even if you don't want the game, go back it, because this is the time and effort put into just the humor in this is awesome.
We had a lot of fun putting it together, and like our graphic designer Davey, it was his idea to really go this far on it. So I can't claim too much credit for this, except for like taking the reins off. I was like, he showed me that the first graphic. He showed me that magazine cover.
Right.
At the very top, and I was like, okay, this, just keep doing that, but go even harder as we get down the page. Like, just keep cranking it up further than anybody thinks he can as we go along. And so that was the goal for the project, and we went really silly with it. And I think it's the kind of project you can, because like Millennium Blades has been out 8 years now, like, and I think it's pretty wild. Like how many projects that were kickstarted 8 years ago are still like in people's minds, are still exciting to us. So many games come and go, but we're still Millennium Blades, and it's a reprint campaign, right? Like this is like this is like the most boring campaign, right?
Right. It shouldn't be good, right? It should just be functional, right?
Yeah, right. Like we're taking all these old cards and we're putting them in new boxes for the next generation of players. That's pretty straightforward stuff, right? So, we got to make that fun, but we also have to do a little bit more. Yeah. And my favorite thing about this project is actually our initiative for art. And so we haven't showed a lot of this yet, but instead of buying ads for this game, we actually just took our entire ad budget and commissioned a bunch of independent artists to draw characters and then post about it on social media. So, and when I say like the entire ad budget for a project, like it's not nothing. It's like, it's very substantial. Yeah. Like, tens of thousands of dollars that we could have just given to Facebook and Twitter and said, okay, good job, go home, guys. Instead, put into the hands of like artists around the world who are creating cool stuff and who are excited about the industry and the work, and anyway, and inviting them to become part of it. And so that was really the like kind of an animating force for this, and it's something that'll come out more later in the project as we go along. But we're really excited with putting making it more of a community effort. Anyway, rambling again, how I go. But
now, if I'm not mistaken, this isn't the first game that you've done the art for.
We did an art initiative for Bullet Universe as well, our previous Bullet expansion project. And that was really fun. That was our first try with this kind of style of running things, and we were really excited by how well it went and how many people it resonated with. So.
Do you feel like it was more successful, less, or about on par as just throwing money?
I think it was on par. I think it was about the same either way. And this is something that I think a lot, like, we don't hear enough about. And I'd be soapboxing again for you guys, but I'm gonna go for it, because when we operate a business, like, there's a lot of money coming in and a lot of money going out, and at the end of the day, you capture some of that and it's your profit. But really what you're really able to do is kind of decide which way the current flows as it moves through. That's your agency when you're in business. And so, the easy kind of mainline route is to just go for advertising. But we know that, that we're investing in these platforms that are, they're not good for us. And so, like my, what do you say? Like, I guess my goal for, like for this year and beyond, and for kind of the next like epoch of Level 99 games, is to be more conscious about how we're channeling our resources and where the money is ending up at the end of the day. Because if we can do all things being equal, or even if it's, I think it's a net positive from both ends. I think we get even a better results. But I want to make sure that we're supporting like independent artists and creators, and making the world something of a better place as we do this work. Because there's a lot of problems in the world, and I make board games. How do I reconcile that? Right? What am I doing with my life? What is the meaning of art, and how do we make a difference? These are the things that we have to think about.
Right.
Yeah. And
anyway, so I'm getting too serious for you guys.
It's all good. I just recently played this game this past year. You finally brought it over, and I was able to finally get this to the table. And I have to say, this game is fantastic. I love the meta aspect of it.
Yep.
I love the little nods to collectible card games in there. Yep. I won basically because I brought out the Exodia equivalent card, which got me like 100 points.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. It's drawn from life. And these are the experiences that we had, and it's so cool to bring them out in this new format and relive them. Sorry, I cut you off. What are you saying?
No, you don't apologize. No, I was just saying, like, I've always been a fan of this. Like, ever since I played one of the first prototypes before it was ever announced. And I remember just thinking, because I was a Magic the Gathering player, and I played Pokemon and a number of other TCGs as well, and I was like, this is just ridiculous in every one of the best ways. Like, because I remember you explaining it to me, I'm like, how would that even function? And then we played it, and I was like, okay. And I just remembered the more I play, the more I'm getting involved, the more I'm getting that like flavor. As we're sitting in a board game shop at that time, which unfortunately is no longer in business anymore up in Albuquerque, and a big market of them was TCGs, and where I was like, man, this is bringing me back to like getting back. It was giving me the same flavor as TCG playing, but condensed, like, you know, a Campbell soup can, like in the perfect concentration of just like pure TCG flavor in like just a couple hours.
Yeah, like it's really a celebration of the games that we've played growing up.
Yeah,
right? And it's heavily drawn from like my high school experience of playing TCGs, and I'm sure that it's such a weird thing, but it's also a very universal experience. That's what I've found, is that it resonates with a lot of people. Even like regardless of what game they played, right? Like they'll see a card and they'll realize what it's a parody of, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I remember!" And then they'll tell you their card gaming story about this one deck they played that was really wild, right? And we just kind of like sit and have fun reminiscing about card games and playing this game, and it's real time. So I think this is like the real catch of Millennium Blades, is that the actual gameplay is like going through a shoebox of trading cards and trying to build a deck like 20 minutes before the tournament starts.
Right.
That's like the real, feeling that we're capturing. And then, and during that time, sometimes it gets really solemn. Like, it's heads down, like we're all trying to plan out our combos and like looking for the right card to finish this combo. And then, the timer rings and the tournament's ready to start, and we look up at each other like, oh no, I hope this is gonna make it. It's a pretty unique experience to play. I don't think there's, even after 8 years, there's still not really any game that's quite like it.
And so one of our friends over here, So Very Wrong About Games, is also, he remembers spending fat stacks on TCG. And that's one of the things I have to say, is that you guys made a component I dislike, paper money. I dislike paper money, and you made it fun.
I had great memories. So there's an old game, and I can't remember who published it, because this is an age where I didn't care about who published my games. I was like, like 10, 11, 12. But it was called Easy Money. And in this game, Easy Money, you dealt with like whole stacks of money, and they piled up the money in the center table. And, you would like when you win one of the little mini games, you get some money, you grab the money out of the center. And the rule book actually had like instructions on how to like fan your money and like, make fun of the other players who had less money and all this stuff, right? Like it was very like overtly like Toy Factor for this game, but I loved it. And me and my brother and sister had such a fun time playing this game. And I'd always wanted an opportunity to make that component. And when Millennium Blades came around, I was like, oh, what if like it takes me a whole stack of bills to buy this one trading card? Wouldn't that be hilarious and also true to life? And it's one of the things that like really makes the game work. Like people love it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you found the solution to paper money. It's just like fat stacks of like. I mean,
it's got such a tactile feel.
Yeah, it really does. I remember me and a mutual friend of ours. Fortunately, he passed away a number of years ago. He was a huge fan of Millennium Blades, and that was one of our favorite memories. It's just like, yeah, let's just hang out for a couple hours and just stickering stacks of money together, And I mean, it's so ridiculous, but it works so brilliantly. I love it. It's one of the best tokens to do, because like just as you're slamming it down across the table. I mean, it's worth it for that alone. It really is.
I'll give you all my money for your trading cards.
Right. It's like, Like you stack down like massive piles. Like how much is that? $4. I love it.
Oh yeah, good times. No, we're really excited for Millennium Blades and and for the content of the campaign, but also just for like bringing people together around card games and talking about the games we love and all of the experiences that we have.
That's right. We're getting sentimental. You're making us do that right now.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And
yeah.
it wasn't even by design. Like it was just that's what Millennium Blades brings. Another reviewer who's a friend of mine, Adam the Fanatic. I agree with. I never thought about it prior to that, but he said this game, in his opinion, is the most thematic game he's ever played, and I thought about that. I was like, wow, he has a really good point about that because
too real in some ways.
It's too real, yeah. Like I mean, you feel it's like, man, if only I had another $1. Can I go do a chore real quick and so I can buy this pack? Like I'll
do anything for one more pack.
$1 more. It's like, can I bring real money into it? Like here's a real $1. Like let me get this pack. Come on now. It's so
that
good.
That chase, man.
You gotta get that chase. I'm telling you, it's like that one card ready to buy. $5 at $6. Like, what am I gonna do? It's so great. All right, so real quick, tell us about for this Kickstarter. It's not just a reprint, right? What new stuff is coming out with it?
Yeah, so we do have some new cards for Millennium Blades, and that's a little mini expansion we're calling Multiversus Beyonder. I don't know if you can tell what that's a reference to, but we have Multiversus Beyonder, and Beyonder, and that's going to be new cards, and it's a new character. Our new character is one that I'm very excited about. She's the flavor character, so the character that cares about the game's deep lore, and so has this kind of almost like church of card games almost. Like it's this like radical devoted following to this card game, and all of the deep secret lore of it. So super excited for that character. She's a lot of fun. A bunch of new cards. I think so there's a lot of cards. Really, it's for all of the people that missed like one or more parts of the game, right? Yeah. So if you missed Collusion, like there's like 700 cards that are like impossible to get now. Right. If you missed some of the mini expansions, there's like 600 cards that are impossible to get now. Set Rotation's been out of print for 4 years. The first big expansion, that's like 450 cards. You can't get any more now. And so like there's a lot of different kinds of players who missed certain parts of the game. We're kind of trying to like patch for everyone.
There you go.
So because this project is really about the add-ons, is what I would say. It's kind of like a build your own product. We try and hit a few key tiers that are like templates of like if you got on at this point, or you got on at this point, or you got on at this point. But really, like kind of build your own pledge with the add-ons is the real game. And we got some extra cool add-ons for this project too that are kind of beyond the game. So we're finally doing a soundtrack for Millennium Blades.
I just pulled that up right now and I'm like, oh god.
Yes.
And I'm going to show some of the tracks like in the upcoming updates. We're going to see some tracks for the game. But the tracks are super cool. There's like an all-star cast doing vocals for this game, which is like
really
crazy. Like I don't think there's any board game that has a vocal album at this time. But we have like a vocal album with 9 vocal tracks by like all kinds of different like famous artists in the kind of the nerdcore genre. So like super cool. That's like a big one thing. We've got a playing card deck that we're doing for and in this playing card deck, like each card is also a Millennium Blades card. So the elements of the suits and the star rating is the rank, and then there's just a picture of a trading card in the middle of each one of these.
That's awesome.
So they're super weird, but a lot of fun. And we are doing our art showcases. So if you I was talking about the art initiative that we have, we're printing those on like big, high quality photo size collectible prints. And those also double as a little mini game that you can play called 99 Heroes.
Yes.
But they're collectible art prints by artists all over the world. So So we have all of those little add-on, all those different add-ons. There's like a playmat for actually playing TCGs. There's a deluxe upgrade if you want to upgrade your Millennium Blades like paper mats into neoprene, like so real playmat material. Am I missing anything? I feel like there's like
I mean, there's a lot, right? There's stickers, there's seven cards.
There's a lot of things.
Ithri pointed out the soundtrack has a card in it too.
Yes, yeah. The soundtrack has like one card in it, which we'll reveal in the near future. Anyway, like there's a lot of like just little cool things.
Is the soundtrack going to come physical or well, it says physical media here, so
Yeah. So we're actually doing a CD because of the whole '90s callback.
Yeah.
This game. We're doing a CD, but it's also going to be available on Spotify and Bandcamp and places like that. So you'll be able to listen to it digitally. The CD is really kind of just a collector's item. We're going to be limited run.
Yeah, I mean I remember. So as an example,
it'll work in your CD player.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's good. It's not just for show, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. Like it's super cool because like you guys released an album for Bullet and used as a timer. And so, and that worked incredibly well. And the music you guys got for it was just premium. Like, it's 100% my style.
I love the Bullet soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm excited to hear these tracks.
Yeah, and this album is the soundtrack too. But the Millennium Blades timer phase is like 20 minutes long, so it's actually a set of 6 tracks is the timer phase for one segment. So there's 18 tracks. That's 3 sets for 3 timer phases. So you can one listen of the album will carry you all the way through the game.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
That's fantastic. I mean, what you guys are doing is just so beyond almost any other board game publisher at this point. Like, in terms of like just absolute absurdity and amazement at the same time.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. We try.
Yeah,
we
that's 100%
go,
intended as a compliment, by the way. Like, I love it.
We tried to go even further beyond this time around.
Beyonder, right? Yeah.
Yeah, beyond it.
Yeah, beyonder. All right, so Brad, we have a couple quick like pop quiz questions that we're going to get into. Is there anything else you want to say about the Kickstarter before we jump into that segment?
No, I mean, what I really want to say is that I appreciate everybody that's participated in it. Thank you for being a part of Level 99 Games, and you playing the games is what enables us to to do the work that we love and to make all this cool stuff for you. So, I'm always conscious of the players and what they're putting in. So, thanks for completing our games, for being the last component in the of a board game is the player. So thank
there
you
go
for being that for us.
Yeah, and that's not replaceable.
That's right.
That's right. All right. Cool. So let's jump into this next part. I have a couple quick questions, pop quiz questions, and feel free to rant about them however you'd like, or answer them yes or no, whatever you'd like. So you brought up earlier that you are a big TCG fan. What is your favorite collectible game?
My favorite collectible card game is the Full Metal Alchemist trading card game.
Oh wow! Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
Back in I think it must have been early 2000s.
I was gonna say I haven't.
I really loved that game. It was probably like nowadays we have a concept of like lane battlers, but this game might have been one of the first game to actually have that concept of lane battling, at least that I played. And it had this really neat system where characters have 3 different stats: strength, wits, and alchemy, and sometimes like the way that you chose to approach your opponent in combat determined who would win. Like if you are up against some big brute homunculus character and you're just fighting them hand to hand, like you absolutely lose. But like these are characters that cannot like actually use alchemy, and so if you make it a battle of your alchemy skills, like just about anybody can beat them, even if they're a novice. And so like in figuring out, and then but also your stats were the play cost of your spells. So you would have like kind of a scene from the show, like like I'm gonna like collapse this tunnel on you or something, and that would require you to play it through a character who had the strength to pull it off, or through a character that had the alchemy skill to pull it off, or through a character that had the wits to pull it off. And so the composition of deck kind of determined what scenes those characters could play through. And anyway, super cool game, very thematic, a lot of fun. I wish it could have had a longer run, but that is my favorite TCG. And if you ask me to play that again, that'd be the one I'd pick up.
Oh, awesome! And it's been out it was back in the day, right?
Back in the day. Yeah, definitely in my it might have been early college days, might have been late high school days, but I remember it very fondly.
Very cool.
So I have a quick question for you because I noticed it on the video and it's on your page as well. How does it feel when other designers shout out your games? Because Jamie Stegmeyer was on the video as well, shouting out
Millennium
Blades.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to hear other designers talk about the game that you've made. It feels very it's humbling, I think, to hear. I mean, maybe it's the opposite of humbling. You have to work hard to remain humble. It's such an honor. That's what I mean to say. It's such an honor to hear other designers talk about the games that I've made, and I really appreciate that.
That's awesome. All right, next one I have. It's a two-part question. If you or at Level 99 could reprint a game, which would it be? And then the follow-up question is, if you had your choice of any video game or media IP to make a game out of, what would that be?
So, for the first question, is this reprint a game from Level 99 or reprint any game from history?
Any game from history.
Gosh, if I could reprint any game from history...
Ithri already picked one for you, but go ahead.
Okay. I mean... I would certainly love to reprint the Full Metal Alchemist TCG. That would be something that because it is my favorite collectible. I don't know if I'm ready to manage a collectible game though, so sure. I don't know if it'd be the best or smartest pick for me. I would have told you Magical Athlete because that's one of my favorite games, but it just got recently picked up for re-release. So I have a new edition of Magical Athlete, and then I would have told you Libertalia. But Stonemeyer picked that up for re-release. So I'm kind of spoiled because all of my favorite games have already been picked up for re-release, and I don't have to do any work to play them again. So it's actually quite nice the position I'm in. Anyway, we were talking about. So I think my answer is kind of a non-answer for you there. And my favorite games keep getting re-released, so it's no problem.
Oh.
What is it? The license that I would pick, obviously I do fighting games. The S tier license that I would pick up would be Smash Brothers, because then you get all the licenses.
Right.
But even if I just got the Nintendo portion of Smash Brothers, I could do a lot of really cool stuff with that game. I know that that's pretty unlikely, but you aim for the moon and land among the stars, right? And I'm really happy that we've been able to work with licensors like ARC and Capcom in the past. And so, maybe eventually if we get enough different licenses, Exceed will become its own Smash Brothers of sorts. So, who can say?
Yeah. So my next question, I know this is probably going to lead to a bit of a rant. We've had this discussion when we were at the Gamma Expo, but what made you choose to go with Kickstarter over something like GameFound or BackerKit?
Yeah, so really I think it has to do a lot with the company's history and DNA. We started in the early days of Kickstarter, and so Kickstarter is kind of it's a place that I'm... it's got some nostalgia for me, I guess. I don't know exactly how to say that. But I also feel like GameFound, is my competition, but actually operated by another publisher that I then am, guiding all my fans to somebody else's store, and they're going to be advertised the other games on GameFound. And this is kind of the same thing on BackerKit, too, right? You go to BackerKit, and what do? Well, you're going to onboard all the people that you've done all this work to bring everybody in, and then you kind of give them to GameFound, and GameFound is just going to throw, and GameFound and BackerKit both are just going to throw newsletters at them for other stuff that other people are paying GameFound and BackerKit to advertise. Right. like if people, join my project, I want them to hear from me. I
Right.
want to be, sharing my projects with them. So maybe it's a little bit selfish in that sense, but I also kind of feel like the platforms just are eating from both ends. Like they charge you an arm and a leg to use the platform, and then they capitalize your customers from the other end. And like, what do you really get? Well, you get the built-in audience for these platforms, but the audience in Kickstarter is still way, way, way bigger.
Right.
And especially when I'm working with a license like Dead by Daylight or Guilty Gear, I think that Kickstarter is still the platform that most people recognize. So it's the platform that most people will feel safe with. And we encountered this with Dead by Daylight as well when we used GameFound as our pledge manager for that project. We had a huge drop off of people that were like, why am I using the second platform? Why are you like bringing me to this other place that that you didn't tell me about in the first place? Like, I don't get it. This is different. This is totally different than where we started out. And it caused a lot of disconnect and a lot of confusion among people that backed that project. So nowadays we just go through our own online store. So the brand you see at the top is Level 99 Games. You backed Level 99 Games. Now you're going to the Level 99 Games store to finish your pledge, pay your shipping, and set up your shipping address. And I found that people understand it a lot better. It makes more sense to them. So,
fair enough.
Yeah,
That's brilliant. Yeah, and yeah, no, and it was such a fascinating conversation, like talking about the differences, like with like stretch goals and like all these different factors.
Yeah, stretch goals.
And we won't get into that here, but like it's great hearing your input on that, because it's like, well, what's the point of it, right? Like, why do we do it, or why would you need to do it? And then other parts of like, even though we can understand the benefit of using a different platform, is it really like the best move for every company? Because it's not a guarantee, right? Some companies it works really well for, but that's because of just how they run. And
I feel like a lot of the platforms. So Kickstarter is kind of just what it is. It's very much like just what it says on the tin. You run your project. That's Kickstarter. With GameFound and BackerKit, they have this kind of sprawling kit of services that is designed to like keep you there as a publisher. They want to keep me bound to the platform at every step of the way. They want to provide my shipping. They want to provide my advertising. They want to provide my logistics. They want to provide like my reporting. They want to do all these things that are integrated in the platform so that I stay on the platform as long as possible, and they take a larger share of the project expenses. And what I really feel like, I like Kickstarter because at least you get off of Kickstarter eventually.
Right.
Like the game gets off of Kickstarter. You can't keep it on Kickstarter as a store. You can't, continue to do all these add-ons and et cetera and everything else on Kickstarter. And like, this is something I think that these platforms really need to offer, is a way to an off-ramp from the platform. They're really good about bringing you in, but when do you leave and go manage your own business separate from this launch moment?
Right.
And that, I think, is it's not a strength of Kickstarter, but it's certainly a weakness of the other platforms, or it's a trap of the other platforms, is that if you're a publisher and you're starting out and you go to like a GameFound or a BackerKit, you can become utterly dependent on these platforms as kind of the core stack for your business. And that's kind of dangerous.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right, and my last pop quiz question. You ready?
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the episode, even before we were filming. What other hobbies are you into or have been passionate about before?
So like recently I'd started collecting, thanks to you, Danny McKinley, I started collecting playing cards.
Yes,
and
there's another one.
And I've been developing a lot of games based around playing cards recently. So next year, so you've seen like in Bullet, we did a playing card deck, and in Millennium Blades, we're doing a playing card deck. It's very likely that you'll see a lot of games that use these playing cards coming out from Level 99 in the next year or two, because I've been really excited about designing playing card based games and getting into the kind of art of these decks. Super cool.
And before playing cards, and again, I apologize about that, but not really, because I love playing cards.
It's probably joy. Yeah. So don't apologize.
And how about before that? What were some of the hobbies you were into?
Gosh, I've always been a big video gamer, which kind of you'd imagine is the foundation for Level 99 games.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, these days, I don't know if you can hear in the background, but I've got a little one in the house, and so we've got a lot more family things going on. And so I love going out with Catherine, my little one, and you can see her on the Kickstarter page. She's the one tearing the homework in half.
Oh, is that her?
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw the picture. Yes.
So you can see Catherine, but we go on day trips. We just took the train up to Santa Fe the other day. We
Oh,
do hiking.
nice.
We do a lot of outdoors and travel and stuff like that. So we're big. We do a lot of, I'd say, travel and hiking, and fine dining is my wife's hobby, which I'm okay with. She loves to travel, like restaurant tourism. Almost.
Oh yeah. Which I got to give you props for that. Like it was. My co-host here and a friend of ours, we reference him a lot on the podcast, Damn It Dom. It was their idea to go to a Brazilian barbecue up
Steakhouse,
or Brazilian steakhouse up when we went to there, and you joined us, and I was very cautious, but I'm very glad you guys coerced me into it because I had a fantastic time.
It was a great evening. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And just talking, just like this, hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and we had some really good conversation. That's why what made me like we really need to bring him back on the podcast, just
Absolutely.
because the behind the scenes stuff is just no one really knows. So we're probably gonna have to bring you back on the podcast just so we can get that big discussion about everything behind the scenes with companies.
Oh yeah, you want to hear me dish on the industry? I'll do that for hours. I mean, I've soapboxed enough for one night for y'all, but it's a. I've been here a long time. I guess at this point, I'm an old hand after 12 years.
Yeah.
Like, I've always thought that I was kind of a newbie, and now, like, I guess I'm a veteran. People, like kids grew up playing Level 99 games, now are getting into the industry. And they look at me and they're like, yeah, that old man's been in the industry since I was a kid. And I'm like, whoa, I guess I have, but it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Right. It feels like it's just been a few years, right? If that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's a few years?
But I'm like, what Reiner Nietzsche is to me, I guess I'm somebody's Reiner Nietzsche out there. That is, it feels like it's too much for me. Like when I meet people that are like, oh, I was playing your games back in high school and they were really formative for me. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. It's an honor. That's an honor. But it almost feels like too great an honor to have made that kind of difference for somebody.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? Like, and I have it's not quite the same, but like I'm an educator. Everyone on the podcast knows that, and now I have students because I teach elementary school.
Yeah,
I have students that are now in high school and upper high school, and I'm like, you guys are about to be adults now. How? Like, I haven't been teaching more than a couple of years, as far as I'm concerned. And like, how is this? Did you skip 4 grades? Like, I don't get what's going on here.
Yeah, time moves.
Yeah, it does.
It moves.
All right, well, Brad, hang out with us for a little bit. Real quick, before we go, where can people see Level 99 games? Where can they buy your product? And how can they get in contact with you if they want to say hello?
Yeah, so, I mean, the best, like right now, obviously we're on Kickstarter, but our online store, level99games.com, is got pretty much everything that we have in stock right now. We're also carried by, I guess I'd say I'm still figuring out my distribution. So not carried wherever fine games are sold yet, but we're hoping to work that out in the next month or so. But right now, the best place to get my games is going to be on level99games.com. You can also find us on Amazon and in most local game stores because we were carried by Asmodee up until last year. So look around, but if you search for one of our games, you shouldn't have too much trouble finding.
Cool. All right, well, we want to thank you for joining us. Stick around for the after episode, but we're going to give our little outro right quick. And we hope the viewers enjoyed that episode as well. If you ever want to contact me or Daniel directly, you can email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com, whether that's to enter in contests, just to say hello, or give us ideas for future episodes. Also, we have an Instagram. That's instagram.com/everydayboardgames.
Also, you can find all video re-uploads on YouTube under youtube.com/@everydayboardgames. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
And please join us on some live episodes. We love having discussions with these live interviewees, but of course we also like hearing from the chat as well, like our friends Crate and Ithri and So Very Wrong About Games and anybody else who joined us in today. Join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
And all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
So as always, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.